episode 10 of the Philosopod with me, James, and with me today we have
Alex,
Kane,
Bryn, Kyle,
Ryan,
Ash.
Totally didn't do an edit there.
Connor.
Connor.
Right, and in today's episode we're going to talk about direct realism, indirect realism, and idealism.
Okay.
It's pretty groovy, right? So,
Alright, well, elaborate.
sounds confusing.
So we'll start with direct realism. These are.
What are you doing?
So these are theories based on what we perceive is actually out there or not. So direct realists believe that objects of our perception are mind-independent objects and their properties. So basically what we see, hear, sense is actually out there, and it's the same properties that are out there. So can you see any problems with that?
We can't prove it.
Yes.
Yay!
What about
Move on.
what about if I'm sitting here, I have a drone, and then I can see what's out there with the
Then you're
drone.
still sensing. You're still.
What?
It's like if a tree falls over in the woods and I have a drone to see it, then does it really happen? One problem with this that is put forward by a guy called Bertrand Russell McGee, I think, is that basically if you see a table, for example, then there's a thing called perceptual variation. So if you go towards the table, it gets bigger. If you look at it from a different angle, it changes shape. So therefore, like, the properties of physical objects do not remain constant, so therefore cannot be directly perceived.
Okay. But that's relying on our view, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
if something stays the same, like two other people can see it in a different view. For example, if I'm on the other end of the room, it's going to be small, whereas you sitting at the table, it's big.
Yeah.
So
the properties change. So how can you say that they're mind-independent properties if they're changed via your sense data or mind? So sense data is basically temporary, mental, and private to you.
Because they're not changing, it's your perception of them that's changing.
But you can't prove.
it's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So what he's saying is that
I've already
Or
done
for
one.
example, like if there's like a cat in light and you see it's ginger, and then when it's dark it's black. You know, its property of colour has changed depending on the level of light.
It's like that bit in Father Ted where he has the toy cows, and then there's the cows in the background, and he goes, "These are small, and those are far away."
Yeah.
It's like that, isn't it?
okay,
I love
well, apply that to humans.
Apply that rule.
Apply that to humans, right? What did you just do? Anyway, yeah. If you apply that to human, you are the same person, same property size. No matter where you go, how I see you. How is that any different to a table?
Well, what's to say that other humans exist as well? Like, what's to say that the properties of other humans are just perceived? Like, you see me as like big or small. I'm quite tall, so probably quite tall.
Yeah.
You're very big every time I look at you. I'm so short.
Another issue with direct realism is the argument from illusion. So basically, we are perceiving a property that doesn't actually exist in that object. So therefore, illusions are subjectively indistinguishable from veridical perceptions, meaning you can't tell the difference between an illusion and a real thing.
Right.
So like if you put a pencil in water and it bends, then you're seeing this pencil as having the property of crookedness, when really it doesn't.
Why would it bend?
But you
Have
don't
you ever
know
done
that it
it?
doesn't.
No.
Because
Because
water,
light
it
try and write
reflects
underwater.
its
Light
appearance.
reflects light. Oh no, not reflects. Light slows down as it goes through water, which is its refractive index.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So therefore, we're seeing the same thing with illusions and veridical perceptions. So therefore,
see, Master James.
because we can't distinguish between the two, they both must be sense data. So they both
yes.
shut up. So they both must be perceived through our minds rather than from outside the world.
Oh,
I apologise.
don't touch me.
Sorry.
But your perception, but you can move an object, and your perception won't change because you're standing in the same place. But the object changes. Does that not
You
mean
have
that
Sorry. forgot.
I don't
just
know.
zoned out a bit there.
Oh, don't worry.
If you moved an object but stayed in the same place, then
Because it proves that it's direct. I didn't really understand this, to be fair.
It's basically the properties are changing.
What would you try and check?
So how come the properties change in your mind but not in the object itself? So is what we see
But if you move
really
the
out
object,
there.
the object is changing. It's moving.
So is this
Okay,
like
it's
is this
not-
what Gareth was saying last week? Like when he was trying to wind everyone up and say like, well, I can't see it, and neither can you, so we don't know if it actually exists behind that wall.
Kind of. We'll get to that later.
Right.
Oh,
So
spicy.
another problem
Foreshadow.
would be hallucination, but that's kind of an extension of illusion. So basically,
Don't take drugs.
or dream. Dreaming is also hallucinating.
Well, you can't really choose if you dream or not, though.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't matter if you can choose. You can't choose
You can
to see the
alter
pencil
your
crooked.
dreams.
Another.
I was an angel and I was racing across some icy mountains. And I realised I was dreaming, and I was like, "Damn, I really want to win." So rather than do anything that I could possibly imagine, I decided to just win the race, and I did.
It's pretty
That's fun.
Pretty good.
So you can lose
Can't
your
remember
dream.
any of those
Yeah,
Pretty good.
that was literally one time a few years ago. I've never done it again.
So another apparent problem with the argument is the time lag argument. So for example, it takes light a while to reach our eyes from what we see. So if, for example, if you go to the Andromeda Galaxy, just like if you teleported there to
What, like on Mass
in an
Effect?
instant, and you looked back at Earth through like a giant telescope or something, you'd still see the dinosaurs because it's taken that long for the light from the Earth to come to Andromeda.
Like when your Wi-Fi is slow.
Yeah.
And like if the sun
Actually,
went
yeah,
out,
yes.
then it'd be like 8 minutes or something.
It's 8 minutes
before you, right?
20. See, precision. Yeah, 8 minutes 20 for the light from the
Oh,
sun to
far
hit
off.
the Earth.
Yeah.
wow.
So people think that, well, because light takes a while to reach your eyes, that you're not directly seeing the world as it is in that exact moment.
Yeah.
Ah.
But people get around that problem and say, well, it's not a real problem because light is still being reflected by the object.
Plus
So
it's
you're
gotta be
still...
So
such a minute amount of time for
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
you can physically see.
Ah.
I think it's like
It
a
really
few
does.
nanoseconds. If you look at your feet, like your feet are in more of the past than your like things higher up that you can see quicker.
Yeah.
So the taller you are, the more in the past you are in terms of your legs.
I see.
That's a really
So technically, if
strange...
you're looking at the sun, you're looking into the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're
With
also going
the-
blind.
What?
If you're looking to the sun, you're probably going blind.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you
Yes.
can look in the sun for a limited amount of time.
But yeah.
Okay.
So a way around, well, some of the problems with direct realism is to go to indirect realism. And this is still believing that there are things out there, but that the immediate objects of our perception are mind-dependent objects that are caused by and represent mind-independent objects. So basically this means we perceive things that are mind-dependent on objects that are mind-independent.
What are you doing?
Okay.
Right, I don't get it.
So this gets around perceptual variation, for example. So the
Yeah.
object is there, you're walking around it, you see the properties from this object, but they're mind-dependent.
So they're in your head.
Yes.
Okay.
But
In
the
your head.
object is mind-independent, so in the world.
So there is an object, but your perception of it is in your head.
Yeah, and it changes. In the world.
Okay.
So that
So it might
gets
not
around.
But
be
the-
what you think it is.
The eye is to see what's in the world,
Hmm.
right? You can't create something, we can create something and place it there,
Hmm.
but that's imagination. Am I right? So what you're saying there is that, well, yeah, I mean, elaborate more. Sorry. Yeah, continue.
It's very hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. But it's basically saying that what we are perceiving, what we actually
Mhm.
receive in our brains is a representation of the object in the world.
Yes, so that links well because they say that if you look in a mirror, that is not actually how you look like
Yeah.
in
'cause
the
it's
real
flipped.
world. Yeah, it's the same with how you see how you hear yourself.
Mm.
What I hear myself right now is probably different to what you hear. Probably different to what the mic hears.
We hear pure sexy sounds.
Yeah, you could say that. yeah, okay, I understand.
Yeah, so
I have a theory that people who can sing well, it's because they hear their voice more accurately to what other people hear it.
That's a very cool theory. How did you come up with
I
that?
don't know, it's just something I think about.
Just
a
sitting
lot.
there one day.
Because
Yeah,
I know
but-
that my voice, I can like
I was
perfectly
having a wank the
replicate
other night.
other people's voices,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't. Like what I hear when I hear my voice in my own head and I try and copy someone else, it sounds dead on, but I know that out loud it doesn't sound anything like it.
Mm-hmm.
Something more about people who can do really good impressions
you
is it because
hear-
their voice they hear is more accurate to what other people hear it as.
You hear your voice like
It's probably not
reverberating
true,
through
but-
your.
Well, Master
Yeah,
James,
and it alters
I
the
believe
sound.
that my
Yeah, okay.
impressions are
Which
very
is what I find
accurate.
annoying because the voice that I can hear when I speak, I think sounds alright, but then I realise I just sound like Ben from Outnumbered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
That was pretty funny.
So
I
like-
hate my voice on audio.
I hate my voice.
I sound
I talk
Nigerian.
too
I don't mind it as much. Like I used to hate it, but now it's okay. Because you are.
You know when we're like out and I say I really want to hit him. That's the kind of person I sound like when I talk. The kind of person that I want to hit.
So, a problem with this that many people say is it actually leads to skepticism about the existence of the external world, because you are not, you're not perceiving what's actually there. People say, well, why would there be objects there in the first place if your sense data can create these perceptions? Surely nothing can be out there, and your mind is just creating everything.
So this is all you'd say a dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all one big hallucination.
Well, then the very fact that me and you are talking right now, and you're questioning that, and you've put that idea in my head, says that.
So basically, Descartes says, "I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am." So if you can doubt your own existence, then
Yeah.
therefore you do exist, therefore you exist.
Okay.
But
Interesting idea.
the thing is, like, you can't prove anyone else exists, even if they make you doubt your own existence, because all you can prove from that is your own existence and not other people's existence.
Interesting.
I don't understand this argument though. Like, this is going to sound stupid and simple because you're having a really intellectual conversation about it, but like, it must, everything must exist out there. Because like I walk downstairs here, so those stairs are real.
You've basically given the next point, which is put forward by Russell, who says that in response to this, he says, well, if you treat them both as hypotheses, so you treat physical objects exist and cause my sense data, and then the other hypothesis is they don't exist and I cause my own sense data. So he has these two scenarios. And he gives the example of, let's say you walked into a room and you saw a cat on the sofa, and you walked out, came back, and the cat had moved to a rug, or a mat, cat on a mat. But, so what's the most likely thing? Either he's gone out of existence and then moved to the rug, or that he's just got up and moved.
Got up and moved.
Exactly. So he applies Occam's razor, which is basically the most logical one, makes sense. So therefore he believes that of course objects exist because it makes more sense than things just disappearing out of existence and reappearing but in a different orientation than when you started.
Yeah.
Which one's Occam's flaming laser sword?
I don't know.
That's the thing.
Is it?
Could you
Yeah.
shave?
I haven't come across
I will
that.
unleash my flaming laser sword to counter your argument, pretty much.
Really?
You know.
No,
I have no idea what it is.
I don't know either.
I'll get on
It wins every round of rock, paper, scissors.
it. Exactly. Just give me a second.
So another response to
Rock,
that.
paper, scissors, flaming sword,
Yeah.
Flaming laser sword.
flaming laser sword.
Laser
Can it like so is it like a flame blade with lasers coming out of it?
Or is it a
It's
laser?
lasers with flames.
Or is it a lightsaber with flames around it?
Yeah, or when it cuts, it just bursts into flames.
Yeah. Flaming laser sword.
The thing is that lightsabers must be the most useless weapons when trying to kill someone because it just cauterizes the wound instantly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you chop them in half, it don't matter, because they're dead.
Yeah.
Like if I chopped your head
Yeah,
off,
you can do
don't
that.
worry, mate, the wound's fine.
Maybe the flaming laser sword is constantly on fire and it hurts you as well.
It's really hot, and you're like, ah.
If this is hypothetical and there isn't actually a sword, I'm going
It's
to be
not
really
a sword.
upset.
It's actually
Ah!
it's actually Newton's flaming laser sword, and it states that whatever cannot be settled by experiment
Must
is
come
not
down.
worth debating.
The hell's that got to do with a sword?
Everything.
I mean, it's like Occam's razor.
Yeah.
It's
Other
not an actual
debate.
razor, is it?
It's
It's not like
superior
Occam's
to the
walking around with a
razor.
razor.
They just call it. They call it that for. I don't know.
Is Occam's like a brand, like Gillette or something? Or,
Yeah.
I'll say full, so I might shave a bit.
Yes. Another response to the problem of skepticism over the external world, Locke provides an idea of like the coherence of our senses. So why would objects be out there that can produce so many, like our senses all coherently produce the same idea? So for example, he gives an example of basically you have a bit of paper and you write a story on it, and you read it out loud, you hear yourself reading what you've written from your mind, and you can give it to someone else, they can read it, and you can hear what you've written on that bit of paper. So if objects weren't...
Get in there!
Gareth arrived.
Oh, mate.
Objects arrived, yeah.
Can we let him continue his point?
Can I have my squash
You're
back?
left out over here. You're all in one corner.
Hey, boy.
April.
We're discussing.
You'll like this one.
Like
whether things around
It's
us,
just
like
racist.
that.
whether things around us are real.
I think it's
or
Well, technically, no. Sorry.
So you go.
Can I have a piece, Gareth?
Gareth, there was this sword, but it's not actually a sword,
You
and
can
it was
swing
very,
laser sword.
and it was very
A
disappointing.
flaming
'Cause
laser
there weren't no
Sword.
sword.
Oh,
No,
it's
I've never
yeah.
come across
exactly.
it. We were
Thank
talking
you.
about Occam's razor,
Occam's razor.
So that's the thing that anything you can't prove with evidence, just discuss
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pretty much.
hmm.
What were you saying?
So basically, he says that the fact that all our senses add up, that it makes a lot of sense to suggest that the world exists rather than it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
Well, then, it's like what you said before. When I said the fact that we're talking and I've given you an idea, you're giving me an idea.
Yeah.
That's completely undone because the argument is that nothing is real around you.
Mm.
It's just all happening in your
Well, you
head, I
can't.
guess.
You can't prove otherwise.
But you can't prove that.
Yeah,
so
you can't prove it.
You,
You
can
just
apply
have to say-
apply the razor and say, if you can't prove it, why talk about it?
Yeah, it's like most likely thing. Obviously, people are going to say the most likely thing is that we exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
But-
that's the most rational thing to do.
But that's
Yeah.
because it's really it's human nature. You can't live your life pretending
Yeah,
nothing
exactly.
exists. So, I mean, there's the whole.
Well, indirect realism is not nothing exists. Indirect realism is that things do exist, but what we perceive them as is a representation of what they are.
Okay, so they physically exist, but what we see is a falsity.
Yeah, so Locke actually breaks this down further. So what he says is that objects have primary and secondary qualities.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you have an apple. Its primary qualities are things that can be removed from it, but still, it can still remain an apple. So like color or like mass or space it fills up in the world. Whereas the primary qualities such as shape and other stuff are basically things that you can't take away from apple to then basically call it an apple,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but if we're going to say that we perceive them differently, if we're saying we perceive them differently to what they really are, then what's the point? There's equal evidence saying that they don't exist at all as there is that we perceive them differently. Both rely on the principle that our senses can be fooled.
But the thing is, because you missed the first part of this, if you say for certain that this is direct realism, basically what we see is out there in the world. There are lots of problems with this that don't seem to add up, such as perceptual variation or illusions or hallucinations or even the time lag argument. You can't, it's more likely that objects out there are representations of the object via our perceptions. So there is just as much evidence for either, but there is more evidence, I believe, and more rational evidence for the existence of at least something out there. So yeah.
How much of this will exist after I headbutt it?
Enough to still call it an apple.
Can you give me a second to film this? Okay then.
No, you can. Oh!
If you get brain hammers one day,
So much
I won't feel sorry for you.
If you get an apple grown out,
Oh, shit.
That one's
stop ruining Fiona's room. So our third and final theory is that of idealism, and we've already touched on this, and this is the fact that the objects of our perception are mind-dependent as well as the objects, so immediate objects of our perception are mind-dependent objects. Basically nothing exists in the world and it's all processed through our brain.
So none of you exist to me.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's an unfalsifiable hypothesis. There's no, you can say, because there's no evidence either way. You can say, because I've got no evidence of you existing, because I don't know what you're thinking. As soon as you exit my sensory perception, to me, you could be gone, because I've got no evidence, either sensory or in rationality, to say that you are real. So really, that it just, you can either believe it or not.
Also, why would my mind do that? Why would my mind create this?
Well, this
If you're in a
is
coma in a near-death state, imbalanced chemicals do sometimes create very vivid hallucinations that can resemble actual life. So there is some.
And these
background.
chemicals have the power to create realities in which intelligences exist.
No, your brain has. Well, to be honest, you could say something about dreams. Your
You could
dreams,
say.
have vivid
but dreams,
when
many philosophers say that dreams and hallucinations are like often hazy and they
You
come
can
from
tell
a
if
different
you're
part of the
dreaming.
brain. Yeah, you
You can tell if you're dreaming.
because they come from a
It's
different
when you
part
wake
of the
up,
brain.
you realise something is
I love Inception.
strange.
Yeah. So many people. So
From
basically,
Inception.
this argument.
Yeah.
This argument, people say, leads to solipsism, where basically only your brain exists
Yeah.
and nothing else exists, and it's just you. But many philosophers hate that because you can't get round it, and because it's such a bleak outlook on life. So I believe, I haven't written notes on this, but I believe
Yeah.
it's Descartes who uses ontological arguments, so basically a way to kind of prove the existence of God. And he says that, well, I'm not a nihilist because I believe God is the one that created my perception of the world, and that nothing exists except me and God, my brain and God, which obviously has its downfalls, depending on which way you look at it and whether you think God exists or not.
Interesting. Well, if you look at why if you look at the Christian religion, obviously other denominations have their own opinion of why we are here. Predominantly in the Christian religion, it is common knowledge that God sent us as a human race down to earth in order to test ourselves, to prove our worth, really.
Yeah.
Not much our worth, but
our souls.
Our
So
souls, the worth of souls.
Hicks, there's a philosopher Hick, he gives an argument on that humans and evil exists in order to develop our souls and to
Indeed,
prove that we are worth going into heaven.
Yes.
Yeah, but the one thing I don't understand, if that's based on the thing of, okay, I exist and God, okay, fine, you say that, but there's more evidence to suggest that other humans exist because I actually have a sensory perception of them than God.
But people who are idealists say that, well, your senses aren't an accurate, reliable way of saying it. They don't know. You can't come outside your own brain to test if things are real because it's your own brain.
So by what criteria is God more realistic? Is it guarantees
The thing is,
the existence?
there are many problems with Descartes' ontological argument, which means that he doesn't prove the existence of God via that argument. So he provides basically a statement saying, well, I'm not the only thing that exists, God also does exist. And that's still kind of a nihilistic point of view because, again, he's saying nothing
You're
else
only
exists.
doing things for yourself and what God thinks of you.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, is that not in the religion? You do good things in religion to secure a place in heaven.
It's not just that; it's to help others.
Yeah, but
secure
it's
a
to
place
help.
in heaven.
Usually, it's to help. Yeah, but it's to help others find the same faith.
Mm.
It's very. The altruism that's connected with the religion isn't really altruism, I think, because it's always with some purpose in mind. There's a goal there to get heaven or to get someone else to heaven.
I don't agree with Descartes on his. I think it's Descartes. Yeah, I don't agree with his point of view that him and God exist, and I also don't entirely agree with the fact that there is nothing out there. I'm more of an indirect realist myself because I think that what we see is a representation of the thing, and that things do exist because it's the most likely reason. And it's a weak argument to say it's the most likely, but I feel like that's the only way you're going to get to a stable point in deciding on what you are.
Are we saying colour then? Colour.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you turn off the lights, colour changes.
Well, and colour to us is different to how other animals perceive colour.
Or even in individuals, you know.
But
Like you could
it's
see
the red, my red, that sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could have just said, this is my red from birth, and we'd both said some red, but it could be a different colour.
Yeah.
Again, can't be proven.
Hasn't there been some research that's proven that it's slightly different?
Yeah, I think
Could
on
be
a
making
person
that
to
up, but
person
I'm sure
basis.
that's-
But with different species,
And even
it's
cross
drastic.
different
species
It's
obviously
drastic.
is
So,
different, but I mean people.
so yeah, you could say that technically that theory has weight because we do perceive things differently to how other groups
It's
perceive.
to do with
Exactly.
our biology, though, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And that's what
But perhaps
Also
that
very
is
good
just
at
an unreliable. Perhaps that's saying that our senses themselves are unreliable.
Yeah,
It doesn't
like
mean that those things are different themselves. It's just that.
it's like a biological limitation on the fact that we can't see infrared or whatever. Or,
Yes.
UV. Like,
So I think in the real world things are there absolutely, and it's proven that we do see things differently.
Yeah.
But I don't think the difference between what is actually real and how we see it is that large. I don't think it's that large.
So as a closing point, I want to go around each and every one of you and ask if you're a direct realist, so you believe that what we see is what we get, basically. An indirect realist, where what we see is what we get from our own brains, so like it represents what's out there, or whether you're an idealist and believe nothing exists and that we're all made of stars. So Bryn, what do you think?
Indirect. It's got to be.
See what happens.
Do I need to add that up? Or
You could if you want, or just...
I just think it's the most logical one. Like, I'm not gonna hedge my bets and go that nothing's real, because I mean I've got to go with what I think, you know. I'm not gonna mistrust my brain that much.
Yeah. Okay. Alex?
I'd say I'm a direct realist.
A direct one.
Possibly.
Even the scientific evidence.
Yeah, even perceptual variation.
I don't really know. All I know is that I'd want to have. I'm definitely not an idealist,
Yeah.
but I'd love to have the mindset of one to see what it's like to be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'm an indirect realist, because again, using Bryn's example, it's like it's the most logical and it makes a lot of sense.
I don't know what I am really.
Connor, what do you what are you?
I'm confused.
Okay, we'll move on. Ryan, what are you?
Yeah, indirect.
Okay.
That's all you need to know.
Kyle?
I think I'm a mixture between indirect and what's the
Direct or idealist?
what do you see was what you get?
Direct.
Yeah, direct.
Direct. I think it's a kind of mixture. I do definitely believe that we have an indirect. What we see isn't particularly what's there,
Yeah.
but I think it is very close to what is there.
Okay.
So I guess it makes me indirect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indirect realist.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
I'm probably an indirect realist in the sense that it's biologically proven that, as I say, other species see the world differently. So just because.
But those other species could not exist.
Yeah.
Nothing could
Yes.
exist.
But because my opinion is, if other species can see the same item differently, therefore my opinion of what the true item is no better than theirs. So both of us are unknown as to what the true colour, say, of that item really is. So therefore, indirect realism.
Okay. And Kane?
I very much agree with that. I'd say I'm an indirect realist as well, in the sense that, well, as everyone else has said, everyone sees things differently. Like, each brain sees things slightly differently, each species sees things slightly differently. So there's no way of saying certainly this is this and this looks like this is this colour. You can't guarantee that. So there's evidence to show that everyone perceives things differently. So I'd say that indirect realism is the most likely.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, there are still some problems with indirect realism that I didn't bring up, but they're not. I don't think they're that detrimental. But that about brings us to a close of episode 10 of this.
Anyway.
Please find us on YouTube at the Philosopod, and you can email us at thephilospod@gmail.com for any potential topic ideas or anything. So have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.